Hi, and welcome to the Digital Digging YouTube channel. In this video, we're exploring yesterday's announcement about the War Thunder Naval Battles CBT, looking at the player reaction, and then going over the official response from Gaijin, specifically about the lack of player-controlled large ships. Now, making major assumptions about a CBT which hasn't even started yet, and then getting all hot under the collar about your assumptions is pretty counterproductive. CBTs in War Thunder have always started with low-tier vehicles, and there's always been a noisy section of the player base which all point to the swordfish and say the game's broken because the fleet air arm is utterly pointless without the hunter, or point to the Tetrarch and start crying because they haven't got a chieftain yet. But is this the same thing? Well, as I say, it's a bit of an assumption. Gaijin haven't explicitly said they wouldn't introduce large player control ships. However, to begin with, during the CBT, large ships will not be player controlled. Many people have heard that announcement and decided it means they won't ever get to play with large ships, and Gaijin's Scarpa came back with a fairly full response this morning, so let's run through the reasoning and see if there's still a game to be played at the end of it. Point number 1, mechanics. And I'm condensing the answer to the main point here, but the result of implementing realistic behaviour on a capital ship would result in horrendously slow and imbalanced gameplay. To simulate the range over which the guns could fire would involve introducing maps miles wide, which would result in a ridiculous travel time to get to the action. Additionally, a capital ship may take hours to sink, a length of time the majority of players would not wish to hang about for, but also they can be prey to an unlucky shot and go down like a lead clog. In the first instance, the player base would be dismayed at the length of time it would take to engage a capital ship, and in the second instance, the controller of the capital ship would be dismayed at the fact that his gigantic battleship exploded because a swordfish got lucky. Point number 2, economics. Point 2 has some crossover with point 1, but it essentially boils down to counting kills, and while it's not exactly an insurmountable problem, it may well be that the developers have plenty of other headaches lined up before they want to tackle this one. Scarpa explains that while sometimes battleships do sink very quickly, on the whole they don't, and will take hours to knock out. Everyone can see how the smaller boat-based economy will work because it's essentially the same as the current aircraft and tank combat. Knock out some crucial modules or knock out the crew. When you scale this up to over 1,000 crew and a much larger array of modules, the job is a much bigger one. So you have to simplify the damage modules to a World of Warships health bar, or let some lucky blighter take the lion's share of the kill with the final shot. I mean, this is after you've wiped out the opposition's smaller craft, so you can have a crack at the main prize, for hours on end. But as I said, this is one of the easier hurdles to clear, but it's still not simple, and I for one would like to get a taste of naval action instead of waiting until all the wrinkles are ironed out. It's the CBT soon, and that's one of the purposes of having a CBT. Point number 3, balance. While there's no point beating around the bush here, the navies of Great Britain, Japan and the US outclassed Russia and Germany at the outbreak of World War II, at least in terms of larger vessels and in particular with aircraft carriers. Not because the Soviets and Germany couldn't make them, but because until that point in history they hadn't really needed them. Everyone had relatively decent smaller vessels, and seeing as the player base consists of people who generally have a go at all nations, with their own favourites eventually emerging of course, it seems fair that all nations should be able to take each other on during the CBT. This is, however, a problem that won't disappear, and it'll be very interesting to see how this situation will be tackled in the long run. Point 4, specialization. Scarpa reiterates the fact that capital battles could last for hours and even days, and adds the point that vessels such as the Yamato and the Missouri were unique in their class, and if there's already one in your team's lineup, you won't be able to take yours out. Either that or there'll be too many, which really makes it a balance problem again. Okay, well, I can see, after thinking about these points for a while, exactly why Gaijin have delayed the decision in favour of getting on with the stuff they can do and ironing out the problems as time goes by, and the emerging gameplay may provide resolutions. It makes a lot of sense, and frankly, after combing through objections from both sides, I've not heard a resounding no. Additionally, there are a great many vessels between an MTB and a capital ship to flesh out the trees, and I'll be looking forward to seeing just how big we can go. Also, NPC-controlled large ships will create a game mode somewhere between PvP and PvE. You'll be forced to clear or sneak past the player-controlled opposition in order to reach the NPC battleships. Personally, I think it would make a grand finale to a match and go some way to banishing the appalling rate of matches lost due to players being unwilling to take capture points. I mean, currently that's the biggest problem I have with War Thunder at the moment, the base-hugging campers who seem to be terminally afraid to take a cap point. And don't get me started on those useless AAA buggers, lounging around at the back of the map when they could be in a proper tank, taking the objective and actually winning a match rather than sitting on their calloused asses, hoping for an easy kill and whining about what a terrible situation we'd be in without them. No, we wouldn't. You can drive away from bombs, and I get enough of them dropped on me even when you double-barreled bastards are clogging up the field. Man up for God's sakes, or woman up, just something up and play the ruddy objective. Okay, well that's it for another video. The 1.61 should be along soonish, I should think, so in the meantime take care of each other and yourselves, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye bye.